Hey there, Tom here from the Run Testers. In this video, we are going to be doing our full review of the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. Let's have a look. Brooks Hyperion Max 3 costs £170 or $200. It weighs 288 grams or 10.2 ounces for men in a size 8, and the drop is 6mm. The Hyperion Max 3 is a super trainer designed for daily miles, faster sessions and tempo efforts, and this time it receives some big upgrades across the whole shoe. The biggest of those is the new midsole build, as well as a healthy increase in stack height by 10mm from the previous version, making it a true max stacked shoe. It now combines a top layer of the brand's energetic DNA Gold foam with a lower level of responsive DNA Flash V2. Sandwiched between them is a Speedvault plate to add stability and propulsion. The upper is a stretchy knit with the tongue built into the design, and the outsole features a modest layer of road track rubber.
The fit of the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, it was all good for me in my normal running shoe size. Got a UK 9 here, which is a US 10 with Brooks. I use that size across the Brooks range and haven't had any problems with the shoe or any others really. I've got enough room in the toe box, good hold around the heel and midfoot. I was a bit concerned about the amount of padding and the way it's rolled at the top of the collar here. It's the kind of design that can sometimes irritate my Achilles a little bit. I was a bit aware of it when I was first putting the shoe on, but actually every time I ran, the upper did disappear on the foot quite nicely. So yeah, all round the fit was comfortable enough for me, and I would stick to your normal running shoe size.
First up the fit then, and in testing I ran in a UK 8.5, US 9.5, which is my regular size in Brooks. It was also the size that I wore for the last generation Hyperion Max 2. I found the last gen an absolute great fit. It was one of the standouts of the shoe actually. And while this still fits well for me, it's very different when it comes to what the Max 3 is doing. I found the sort of integrated booty style design, it did fit well, but it's not as roomy, it's not as free, it's a bit more hugging, it's a bit more tight, if you'd say secure maybe. The Max 2 was so accommodating on that front. I used it for sort of 40 miles of the Berlin Wall 100. And it was ace. It was just sort of free and airy and roomy. The Max 3 is much more close and hugging. There is flex, and I get enough length and wiggle room in the sort of toe box and towards the end. But this is a much more kind of racy, tight setup. Also with these sort of more minimal looking heel collars, there is sort of a decent bit of padding in there, but it's more that kind of race shoe fit. So while I was perfectly happy in my regular size for my test efforts up to a couple of hours, I'm not 100% convinced that I'd now back it to do the 7 or 8 hours like I did the Max 2. And you're just not going to get the same fit. But I think overall for shorter runs I would go true to size.
So the fit for me in the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, I'm a size 8 in the UK, this is size 8. It's a very roomy shoe in the forefoot. There's loads of space before my big toe, a lot more than I'd normally experience in a size UK 8. There's plenty of space around the forefoot as well. It's quite a comfortable shoe in the whole toe box area. Midfoot's fairly standard width. For me, it's absolutely fine, but it's definitely not a roomy midfoot. So you get a good lockdown in it. And the padding around the ankle collar, this sort of one fit or sock-like design where it's all just one piece of material works pretty well for me. I found it to be pretty comfortable, and it's quite easy to get a nice lockdown fit in this shoe. But I would say that because of the extra space, some people might want to size down half a size in this shoe. I was okay with it, but there's definitely a lot more space in it than I'd normally experience.
So no major issues to report in terms of fit with the Hyperion Max 3. I've got it in a UK size 8, and that is my typical running shoe size. It's definitely a departure from the fit of the Hyperion Max 2, which I really liked, but this is very different, I would say, and not necessarily in a bad way. I think what I would say is when you slip this shoe on, it already feels like it's kind of quickly locking things in place in those kind of strategic areas, so at the midfoot, at the heel as well, before you've even laced them up. And it's always almost telling you that this is a shoe that's getting, ready for you to run a little bit harder and faster in. In terms of space up front of the toe box, absolutely fine, not overly generous, definitely enough there to allow you to feel comfortable to want to run longer in this shoe. In terms of the laces and the tongue, it's kind of this all-in-one tongue, which is kind of thinner at the top, kind of reserves the padding for where the laces sit, and these are quite thick laces as well, so you're getting a lot of comfort there on the top of your foot in those kind of key areas. You get back to this heel collar, and most of the padding is reserved for the inside of the heel collar, and it's thinner on the kind of external bit here that kind of sits outside. Now, it's been fine for me. I haven't had any kind of issues or irritation at that kind of area, but I will say there's quite a lot going on in terms of that kind of design. So yeah, key things for me, in my kind of skinny, narrow feet, this shoe does really kind of lock you in place very early on. It's felt comfortable, the space has been good overall, and yeah, I would go true to size if I had the option again to pick the Hyperion Max 3.
Onto the run test then. I had a pretty special relationship with the Brooks Hyperion Max 2, which has 100% coloured my assessment of the Max 3, but these are very different shoes. The 2 treated me so well during the first 40 miles of last year's Berlin Wall 100 mile. It was light, it was roomy, cushioned, but had a great clip along. It almost certainly wasn't built to do 10-minute miles for 8 hours like I did, but it was great at it. It just felt easy to run in. I really, really enjoyed it. It had so much room up front as well. Now, the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 feels like a totally different shoe to me. It looks like a totally different shoe as well, the minute you sort of clap eyes on it. In testing, I've done around 35 miles in the Max 3, and I'm a bit torn, to be honest, partly because of how much I like the last one. This is designed to be a versatile trainer that can handle long runs and speed work. And I would say from my testing, I think it can do both, though I found it to be certainly more capable for the former rather than the latter. It's certainly got marathon pace, long run potential. It's got those kind of runs comfortably in its locker, where it offers up a sort of bouncy, protective, smooth dual foam ride that benefits from the rockering. I've found it fairly stable for a big stack shoe. I think there's a happy consistency to the way it sort of lands and toes off as well. I also took it to a park run to take it full tilt, and this is how I got on there. So I've just finished doing the Gunnersbury park run here in London. I used the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, went for an all-out 5k PB, pushed it as hard as I could, gave it absolute full beans. All my energy out there, came up a bit short, was probably just somewhere over 17:36 I think is now my 5k PB. But I wanted to see what these shoes would do if you really, really went at it all out on a race like that. You know, how energetic are they? The truth is, that hasn't convinced me that these are shoes that I would do my fastest sessions in. I did have that inclination before I came out here. They're not going to give you as much energy, I think, as you probably need at those sort of top paces. They're not helping you as much as some other shoes might. They are really, I think, got this kind of sweet spot where it's sort of cruising marathon pace, maybe a little bit fast, but when I'm hitting, you know, those sub 6 minute miles, I'm not getting what I would get from some of the real top end super shoes. You know, obviously they're not necessarily going up against the carbon racers, although, you know, the price tag, you know, maybe is up there. But yeah, it just convinced me that 5k that they are best for when you're going to go long up to a certain pace. They aren't going to sort of be useful beyond that. And if you're going to do your sessions, your intervals, you know, they can do it a little bit. You know, I had to work hard to get the paces out of there, a little bit harder than I would have when I came here and did it in the Cielo X1, 2, all of that kind of stuff. So they can, but you're going to have to work for it. And it has only convinced me that these guys have got a sweet spot, which is probably cruising around marathon pace.
So the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, it's an interesting shoe, and I've done about 60k in this shoe, and I have really enjoyed testing it for the sort of runs that I've been doing predominantly in this shoe. It's a funny sort of shoe, and there's a few of these shoes that exist that are they're designed for like faster training, but they're quite big shoes, so they're not really shoes that I would use if I was going out and say doing a speed session or an interval session or something like that, just because there's a bit too much shoe there. But what I have found is that over the runs that I've done in it, the ones where this shoe works quite well is where I'm just going out, I want to go at maybe a bit of a faster pace than my easy run, where I want to maintain a nice pace. I think it would work very well for as a training partner for marathon training if you were going out and doing a lot of longer sessions and you just wanted something that was very cushioned, had a nice rolling action, a little bit of bounce, and just to help you run those longer sessions. What I found with it is that it works really well for those sorts of runs, and I very much enjoyed it for those runs where I'm going out and I'm just trying to maintain a nice pace. But it's just too a big shoe for any sort of speed work, or anything where you need to pick up the pace quickly, and you want something lighter on the feet. But it hasn't been a bad experience for me. I think if that's what you're looking for, if you're going out and you're doing lots of miles, maybe you're training for a marathon and your long runs are really just at a comfortable pace, then you're not going out and you're going almost at marathon pace. I think this is actually quite a nice comfortable shoe for that. I'd also say that the outsole is pretty good from what I've experienced. That there's quite thick layer of rubber on the forefoot and thick on the back as well. There is quite a lot of exposed midsole, and there's also this big cutout section. I didn't really notice that on the run. It definitely doesn't ruin the stability or anything like that. So a pretty good outsole, and all in all, the stability of it is pretty good as well for such a big high shoe, which is good. Brooks generally do a good job when it comes to stability. It's sort of one of their modus operandis with shoes, and you definitely get that despite the really high stack on this shoe. So all in all, I've enjoyed testing it. There's certain runs that I really enjoyed it on, and I wasn't expecting to, but I do think it's a limited shoe.
So in terms of that running time, I initially wanted to stick to, or aim to stick to, the same types of running sessions that I would use the Hyperion Max 2 for. Now that shoe, I think, was best suited for your faster paces. It wouldn't be a shoe that I'd want to necessarily run long and easy, or kind of off my kind of tempo paces, just because it was a little on the firm side and, you know, just felt a little bit awkward to kind of ease off in. Now in the Max 3, I do think things have changed. I do think it's a touch more versatile than the Max 2, which I think, you know, a lot of people are probably going to appreciate. Maybe people might not like the fact that it maybe has moved a little bit away from the previous shoes, but I think maybe it is a positive and probably is going to make the shoe feel a lot more comfortable for a lot more runners. Now, upper revamp aside, there's a lot happening in that midsole. You've got that DNA gold kind of midsole foam in there, that PIBA based foam, which worked really well in the Elite 4 PB. You know, it's also in the Elite 5. I think it's a change that was needed in Brooks's line of kind of performance faster focus shoes to really bring it in, you know, closer to the kind of rival shoes that kind of sit in a similar category. Now you've got that plate in there as well too, so you're getting that kind of pop there as well, and it does feel really nice to kind of run kind of faster and more up tempo paces in this shoe. There's lovely bounce on that DNA gold foam. You've got that kind of really nice forefoot rocker in there, so it rolls through very nicely as well. And when you are hitting those harder paces, you're getting a shoe that kind of, I think, sits well at those kind of livelier kind of, you know, for those livelier sessions. The difference is that I think, you know, the change with that midsole has made it more comfortable to run longer. I think cruise at longer for longer runs as well. I think ease off a little bit as well. I think there's going to be some runners that can run easier paces in this shoe. And as I said, I think it has a little bit more versatility about it than the previous Max. It's been pretty stable for me as well. Definitely you compare it to some other shoes. I think, you know, if you're worried it's going to be a little bit too wild, and it definitely probably is a little bit less stable than the previous Hyperion Max shoes, but I think in the, you know, grand scheme of things, looking at other shoes in this category, it probably does sit pretty stable in comparison. Kind of negative for me would be that I think when I've tried to hit my kind of quicker all-out paces, 5k paces, you know, absolutely can handle it. I think I would prefer it to be a little bit lighter. You think it just kind of holds it back slightly in terms of those kind of all-out paces, and maybe would be a reservation for me to kind of use it for kind of all out kind of shorter distance races. But I think in terms of cruising, in terms of hitting those faster paces, it absolutely still has it in its locker to do that. And I've enjoyed running in it. It feels very comfortable to run in this shoe. And yeah, I still think, you know, you will want to run harder in it, but I do think, as I said, for some runners, you're absolutely going to see that it has the capability and the stability and the control to be able to ease off in it and cruise in a smooth, kind of very nice fashion, and still have that kind of faster feel as well. Outsole wise, you know, not a huge amount of rubber here. You can probably see from this kind of profile, kind of some more in the forefoot, a little bit less in the heel. 50k of running, I'm not seeing bad wear yet. The grip has been fine, though I have only run in kind of dry conditions, so, you know, I don't really know what it's going to handle with kind of, you know, wetter kind of surfaces, but generally in terms of my running time, it's been absolutely fine. So solid experience in the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. Definitely a different shoe from the Hyperion Max 2, which I think some people might like. I think it's going to make it a more appealing shoe for more runners.
So I've run about 60k in the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, using it for a mix of training runs, including a long run, a flat out easy run, and a couple of easy to steady progression runs, moving down from around 440, 430 a k down towards around 340 a k pace. So it's an exciting update on paper, because for the first time Brooks has brought its new DNA Gold PIBA foam to a training shoe. Big fan of that foam in the Hyperion Elite 4 PB and the Hyperion Elite 5 racing shoes, much bouncier and livelier than other foams Brooks has used in its shoes. So it's interesting to see how it would fare in the Hyperion Max 3, where it obviously is paired with a more standard foam underneath with this very high stack you have here. So it's definitely a different shoe to its predecessor, the Hyperion Max 2, which is lighter, felt a bit more rockered, definitely a firmer shoe. The Hyperion Max 2 doesn't have as much bounce and spring as you get from the new midsole setup. On the Hyperion Max 3, it feels like a more comfortable shoe as well, because you've got all that extra stack, but don't really think the performance has been improved in terms of fast running. I think maybe it's a bit more of a fun cruiser than the previous model, but Hyperion Max 3 during my testing has really felt like a shoe that's designed to handle lots of running and perform very well for long runs, but didn't really have the spark for faster runs in my opinion. So first run of the shoe was a long run, and that's where the shoe did impress me. So going out on a long run when you're just running to feel and picking up the pace here and there if you want to, it's really good because you get a lot of protection here, you get a bit of bounce, it can handle slightly faster stuff, your legs feel good the next day because of all the foam underfoot, and yeah, all round it feels very well designed for those kind of runs. But if you are going to run with a bit more purpose and actually try and run at faster speeds, the size and bulk of the shoe definitely counts against it. It's pretty heavy. There is a bit of bounce to foam the midsole, but not enough to really counteract that weight. And it's not aggressively rockered. It's just a shoe that doesn't feel like it's really well suited for faster paces. And so you're looking on the super trainer market, I guess the Hyperion Max 2 was a slightly different type of shoe to things like the Endorphin Speed and the Hoka Max X2. Quite a stable and supportive shoe that was quite fast still, but it was probably still in that super trainer mold. I think this is much more going up against shoes like the Hoka Skyward X really for me as a really big shoe that's designed to handle lots of training but isn't really built for speed and doesn't really have the versatility of those top super trainers. So I did do a couple of progression runs in the shoe and it was okay cruising along at kind of 340 a k pace. It wasn't really a step up in performance for those runs than you get from like standard daily trainers, things like the Nova Blast or the Clifton. It's not a shoe that I think offers enough in terms of performance given all the stuff you've got going on here and the high price.
So my final verdict's on the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. I think it's a very enjoyable shoe to run in. I think it's a good shoe if you're just going out and you're just maintaining a nice consistent pace for possibly a long way or an easy run. It's quite nice for easy runs as well. I found makes you run a little bit faster, makes it a little bit easier, pick up the pace a little bit more. When I was doing that, I did look down and think, oh, actually, I'm running a bit faster than I'd normally go out if I was running an easy run. But it's quite limited. It's a big shoe. There's a lot to it. I think a lot of people probably feel like it's a bit too much on the foot, especially if you want to go really fast. I wouldn't use this for speed training. I wouldn't use this if I was going out and doing marathon sessions where I needed to maintain a really fast pace. Instead, I would use it for those in between runs, tempo-y runs, where I just want to go out and I just want to run faster than I would normally at an easy run, maybe a bit of a steadier pace. So yeah, I think it's a specific shoe. I think it doesn't really compete with some of the other shoes that you might be looking at in the same area, things like the Saucony Dolphin Speed 5, which is a very versatile shoe, but definitely just has a lot more kick to it. Definitely feels lighter on the feet. You can pick up the pace quicker on that. Great for going and doing faster sessions, intervals, fartleks, things like that. I don't think this can do that very well. It's not a versatile shoe, but it's neither an easy shoe or a fast shoe. It sort of sits in that middle world where you just want comfort over a moderate level of training. So I have enjoyed testing it for the runs for the predominant runs that I've done in it, but I just think it's a limited shoe, so tricky one to promote, and it's a bit more expensive than some of the faster daily shoes out there.
So my verdict on the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, this isn't an update that has really worked for me. I'm not exactly sure what Brooks is going for here, and I don't really think the Hyperion Max 3 does enough to merit its very high cost or the amount of tech that's going on in its midsole. It feels just like a pretty standard cushion daily trainer, maybe with a bit more bounce, maybe with a bit more kind of protection underfoot, but it's not a shoe that's really elevating the experience of your daily runs. It's a good long run shoe, but there are lots of those about, and I don't think there's enough here to make it worth looking at compared to other super trainers or the best daily trainers without a plate that you can get for a lower price. So while it is a solid long run shoe, it's comfortable, it's protective. I think whatever you're really looking for in a running shoe, you can probably find a better option on the market. So if you're looking for a proper super trainer, a shoe that's really going to be versatile, offer you a load of speed for fast sessions or even races, while also being comfortable on easy runs, there's things like the Saucony Dolphin Speed 5, Hoka Max X2. They're not as comfortable and stable as the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, but they're kind of fine, I think, for daily runs, and then have that extra gear. Then if you are looking for more of a comfortable, bouncy, supportive super shoe, I do think the Mizuno Neo Vista 2 does what the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 does at a lower price in the UK. I think it's the same price in the US, but it's a lower price in the UK, and it's got a more fun, bouncy ride. It's a much lighter shoe. I think all the things I was kind of getting from the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 that I enjoyed, like its performance over long runs, the Neo Vista 2 did a little bit better. So that's one I'd look for there. The Nike Zoom Fly 6 would be another really good all-round super trainer, is very comfortable and has more speed than the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 and the Neo Vista for that part. Another really comfortable all-round shoe. And then if you are really looking for a cruiser to go through long runs with a lot of foam underfoot, I think the Asics Nova Blast 5 or the Hoka Clifton 10 would do that job just as well, and they're cheaper, they're a bit lighter than the Hyperion Max 3, and just kind of more simple, normal shoes that you can slip into rotation to do the same job. So I think just all around the full package of the Hyperion Max 3 doesn't work for me. It's a really high price, it's a pretty high weight, there's not enough in the midsole to really counteract that weight and make it very lively, and all round it doesn't seem like good value for money. I mean, it's the same price as something like the Super Blast in the US, and I think this is not a shoe that brings you that kind of level of performance. It is a pretty comfortable, supportive shoe for cranking out miles and long runs, but there's a lot of those out there that are available at a lower price or in a package that also offers a lot more in terms of versatility.
So my take on the Brooks Hyperion Max 3 is that this is absolutely a Max shoe now. It feels like it, and it feels like a super trainer in the sense that this is absolutely one that I would feel comfortable running a mixture of paces in. I don't think that's necessarily or was necessarily the case with the Hyperion Max 2, and this definitely is a different shoe from that. And I think if you were hoping for more of that, I think that's not really what you're getting here on the Max 3. But I think the changes, what those changes do is make this a more accessible shoe to a lot more runners, and I think that's a positive thing. And I think you're still going to get a nice faster feel from this shoe, but it is going to work for a lot of runners for a mixture of paces. The most obvious shoe it's going to go up against are things like the Asics Super Blast 2, which is a little bit lighter. I think also has that versatility about it. I think is not a snug feeling in terms of the fit compared to the Hyperion Max 3. So if you wanted something similar to this, can afford to pay a little bit more money and can get hold of it, the Super Blast 2 is going to give you similar qualities and just give you a more accommodating fit, I think, in general. I think you look at other shoes, you're looking at things like Saucony Endorphin Speed 5, which is has similar qualities in terms of that versatility, definitely is lighter and feels more snappy at those faster all-out paces that I talked about. You could also look at something like the Adidas Evo SL, which is cheaper again, and it again gives you that versatility and will work for faster sessions as well. I think just because of the design of this shoe and how you're getting that kind of slightly kind of separated midsole, people are going to probably look at it to similar things like the Hoka Cielo X1, the original version, a big shoe, a shoe that you can definitely coast in, definitely run some harder, faster sessions in as well. This would be a more stable version of that, probably a little bit more affordable as well. But I think this Hyperion Max 3 sits well with those shoes. If you can take away, that feeling of the previous shoes and look at it as being a proper max cushion super trainer that can work across a mixture of paces, then you'll appreciate what you're getting here. It's at a pretty good price, and if you can't get hold of those other shoes, you're looking for similar qualities in a shoe for all of your runs, then this is one to look at.
Verdict then, and Brooks has clearly tried to up the Max credentials here, quite obviously when you look at the shoe, and it feels to me like a very different shoe to the Max 2. It's a shame, that was a great shoe. In many ways, I now think it's much more kind of Mizuno Neo Vista than sort of Hoka Mach X2, though it's a heavier, much firmer sort of variant of the Vista 2. And I prefer it actually to the Vista 2 for that, but not for the heavier, but for the firmer bit. But what you now get is a heavier, very high cushion shoe that's lively, but nowhere near as direct or immediate in the return, or lightweight and sort of snappy as its predecessor. But I think if you're looking for a marathon pace workhorse that offers a good balance of energy and bounce, but stays controlled, then I think the Hyperion Max 3 does work well for that particular kind of run. There are a lot of shoes that do that though, and some of them will be cheaper. When it comes to faster efforts, I think it can handle them. My 5:33 minute mile at park run sort of suggests that's testament to that, but it's not as punchy or as snappy as some other faster tuned shoes. I think it's not as agile and nimble feeling as something like the Endorphin Speed 5 or the Hoka Mach X2. And in that sense, I think it's a bit more Super Blast 2 than those shoes. So it can do fast, but I'd reach for other shoes first for my very fastest sessions. Now, with my Road Ultra hat on, I also think the upper changes limit how many hours I'd want to have them on feet. It's all a bit too close and tight and racy to go true to size and do that. I love the upper package of the Hyperion Max 2. It was a real selling point for being able to just move for hours in it without any problems at all. For me, these uppers feel different. They just don't hit the sweet spot in the same way for that. So for me, this is one of those occasions where I've enjoyed every run that I've done in the Hyperion Max 3, and I can chug along in it happily at marathon pace for an hour or two. It's a solid max stack shoe, I would say, and if that's what you're after, I think it will serve you well. if you're looking for something that's going to be all out kind of punchy as well in that mix, I don't quite think that it hits for those fastest sessions.
That's it from us on this review of the Brooks Hyperion Max 3. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and click that little bell. And if you go to the caption below, you can find a link to our podcast, which comes out a couple of times each month. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.